go through some quick topics that are of
Mhm.
urgency for the people of St. Croix before we wrap up. So we just
Mhm.
talked about transportation, education. That was another priority of the people of the Virgin Islands, and not only here but nationally.
Mhm.
Education and where some of the issues that we're seeing in education, and what are some things that senators or lawmakers can do. So, what are some of your ideas and thoughts that you think people can get done for education in the territory?
Well, I think we have to invest in the infrastructure. I think our schools are too old. Our buildings are too
Hmm.
old. And you send children who are already stressed into a building
Hmm.
that is distressed. I don't believe that that is conducive to learning.
Yeah.
I would say that we have to invest in the infrastructure, right? I'm very disappointed with the fact that we continue to cut the hours of learning. I
Hmm.
mean, we've already had the learning loss that continues to grow because we're just not nimble enough and we're not addressing the root cause. So what could be done quickly is we need to figure out how we consolidate, right?
Hmm.
Consolidate, make sure that the next summer that we start making these repairs from day one, and that
Hmm.
someone like you were talking about a super committee the other day. I mean,
Yes.
earlier today. So the other day I was talking to someone that we need to have the Senate should create a committee that is going to do nothing but look at these grants and make sure that they know the deadlines to be spent,
Hmm.
and bring these people into their offices. You don't have to have a hearing in public, and stay
Hmm.
on top of these grants because a lot of that money is for education,
Hmm.
and ensure that we have something rolled out in June to start repairing the schools. That would be for me a number one priority. Obviously, teachers want to get paid better, but I think teachers
Hmm.
want to work in an environment that it's conducive to learning, and I think it's just very stressful.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
my suggestion is a committee that
Hmm.
is going to have complete oversight of grant monies, particularly the education funds.
Yes. What about homeless? What are your
No,
thoughts on homeless? And what ideas do you think we can put in place to get homelessness, to decrease the amount of homeless individuals we have in the territory?
well, you saw the $18 million that was just put aside for a mental health facility. I hope that that's going
Yes.
to include also is some space for our homeless population because mental illness
Hmm.
and homelessness are connected. I-
Yes.
I'd like to see some of those schools that have been shut down converted
Hmm.
into facilities for our homeless people. I like us to first treat them and then make sure that they are transitioned out into a structure that can provide, there's a laundry, there's a rec room. And I see maybe Charles Emmanuel School or Evelyn Williams or John Woodson that was shut down. Any of these facilities that could be repurposed. Even the Jovensa Vocational School on the highway,
Hmm.
that would be a
Yes.
good location that to
Hmm.
use to take our homeless off the streets and provide
Hmm.
them the services they need in these facilities, and then help transition them out. Right.
Hmm.
That would be like for me like the first uh, course of action.
Yes, yes, yes. And before I ask my last topic, your question about
Mhm.
my last topic, we have a commenter and he asked you specifically, what is your opinion on public works with the potholes in St. Croix? What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that public works should be bifurcated. We should have a public works a department that is solely responsible for St. Croix and the one that's solely responsible for St. Thomas and St. John. If you see some of our roads are getting paved and then there are these areas that are not being touched,
Hmm.
I don't believe that there's a real method that is being deployed to ensure that when you start a paving project that you finish that paving project. So there's
Hmm.
these hodgepodge kind of work being done. So I would support and I would encourage the senators to consider separating the agency, right? Funding St.
Hmm.
Croix, and the commissioner doesn't. I mean, you have to live in St. Croix to understand St. Croix's needs. And maybe we
Hmm.
don't need one commissioner. Maybe we need a director for St. Croix and a director for St. Thomas. Have the funding go directly for St. Croix for whatever that is, and let it be spent on St. Croix because the St. Croix people would know what St. Croix needs are. In fact, there is a protest at Williams Light on Monday, 9 o'clock,
Hmm.
regarding the Williams Light Road. That I mean, it looks like a war zone. I don't know if you've been there. So
Hmm.
I think Public
Yeah.
Works is Public works is a reason for a lot of the stress that we live through every day due to the conditions of our roads.
Yes, yes, yes. I hope that answered your question, sir. So my last two topics I want to talk about is first one, GRS. What do you
Yeah.
see as something that they need to continue doing to ensure that the GRS can remain balanced and stable, so that our retirees can be able to have a system that they can depend on when they decide to retire?
Well, I know that the fix that they did a couple years ago was only going to be a temporary fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were
Yes.
looking at, I don't know, almost close to $3 billion shortfall. So I'm not sure what that looks like now, but I know it was a temporary fix. I always believe that we needed to separate it, that we need to give people who come into government the first time an opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
have their own 401k. And we should
Mm-hmm.
have taken people earlier on and said, are you prepared to move on and move your monies to a different place? I don't think that GRS can be sustained forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. We have seen many pension plans across the country in these states that are all struggling. They're all
Mm-hmm.
struggling because of the way that they operate. So there's got to be, for me, I think, a separation, and we talked about that when I was in the legislature, separating new people that are coming into the system, and maybe using the University of the Virgin Islands uses, I forget the name of their plan, but they have a very good plan that we might be able to transfer our employees to, because part of the reason that the GRS is in trouble is very top heavy, and the
Mm-hmm.
administrative cost for the GRS, I think, are a problem and it should concern us all. So I would rather just turn it over to another entity, like a third party, like the one that does UVI, and say, here, run our pension plan, and so that our employees at least have something that they can depend on when they're retiring.
Yes. And my last question, my last step is government efficiency. What would be something that you would work on, or you any ideas you have that you think we could improve on government efficiency and accountability? Because that was a main issue people were talking about, highlighting. They felt like we have a Democratic governor, a Democratic Senate, and accountability and efficiency is not always present. So, what are some of your ideas or thoughts on government efficiency and accountability, and how we could improve that, and how we could get that at least started for the next 2 years?
Well, I think for government accountability, we need to be clear that if someone is charged and then found guilty of corruption, misuse of public funds, they should lose their pension, right? I mean, the punishment should really fit the crime. And if you
Mm-hmm.
are misusing the trust of the public, and you're misusing public funds, it should be that your pension goes away. That would be one way, I think, to make sure that people know what the repercussions would be and what the consequences are of their actions. For efficiency reasons, I feel that all of the federal funding that comes to the territory and is significant is not
Mm-hmm.
maximized. And the only way to do that is if the legislature works in conjunction with the executive branch, particularly these government agencies that have
Mm-hmm.
federal funding that has come down the pipe, to ensure that these monies get spent timely. It's not just good enough to bring them into the chamber and chastise them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Half the time they're not going to tell you the truth. But if you can have meetings with them and ask them, what is it that I can do to help you spend these federal dollars? Because we get a lot
Mm-hmm.
of federal dollars, $18 billion in monies that have come into the territory. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
if we were more efficient in the way we spend these federal dollars, the jobs that we could create. Just
Yes.
imagine the taxes that would come out of that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, for efficiency reasons, I think we need to pay more attention to federal dollars because that's where the money is. It's not our $1.2 billion budget. That is peanuts compared to all of the federal dollars that come into this territory that are not spent timely.